All right. Hi, everyone. This is Kelly from Braincell, and I just want to thank you all for joining us for our webinar on Sage AP Automation. We're going to walk through how AP Automation is transforming the back office. So a few quick housekeeping items. Today's webinar is just going to be a 45-minute presentation, and we will have time for Q&A at the end. If you would please type your questions into the question box to submit them, and throughout the presentation I will be collecting your questions, and then I will speak to them with Joey at the end. And of course, we'll send a copy of this presentation deck and a recording of the webinar to everybody as a follow-up, probably tomorrow, but definitely once everything is wrapped up today. A little bit about Braincell. We were founded in 1994, and we are a growth enablement company. We help companies thrive by solving their business challenges with guidance and technology. And we specialize in ERP, CRM, BI, customer service, and marketing automation. And today we are joined by Joey Glazer, who's an account executive at Beanworks for Sage AP Automation. And he's going to start off by walking us through today's agenda. Joey.
Great, thank you so much for the introduction, Kelly. Again, my name is Joey. I'll be your host today for today's webinar. And the agenda for today is we're going to talk a little bit about manual AP, what the traditional process looks like for the AP team. We're going to look into some research, what some studies have shown. And then we're going to see what some of the benefits are of automating and of AP automation. And then we're going to do a brief product demonstration of Beanworks and Sage AP automation. And then after that, as Kelly mentioned, we'll be going through a Q&A. We'll be doing a Q&A session, so please do enter your questions throughout, and we'll be able to get to them at the end. And that was a great introduction of Braincell. I guess I'll briefly mention Beanworks. We've been around for around 8 or 9 years ourselves, but around 3 years since we've been partnered directly with Sage and branded as Sage AP Automation. So we are Sage's provider of choice for AP automation. And we help clients for everything from purchase orders through to the invoice process and making payments for their accounts payable. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So from our experience talking to finance professionals, we typically see that the core problems related to AP are speed, tracking, and finally, the amount of time spent managing AP. There are 4 basic questions you can ask yourself to determine how manual is your AP. Those questions, they typically are as follows here. What % of your week is spent on the data entry? What % of your week is spent following up on approval? So that's going to be managing things like sending emails out for invoices, or if it's a paper process, actually distributing those invoices around to get signature and approval on. And what % of your week is spent managing payments? So this can be managing payments such as preparing a check run and actually having check signers sign off on the checks, or maybe it's preparing for an electronic payment batch to be sent out for your bank. Either way, it definitely typically involves matching up invoices with the payments before that payment run is made. And finally, what % of your week is spent scanning, filing paper, and labeling folders? So this can either be scanning and saving electronically, or if you're in a paper-based process, I'm sure you're very familiar with this, it'll be filing in cabinets, in boxes, and storing paper. So think about it. If you spend less time coding your invoices, your invoices could be approved faster, and if it took less time to manage approvals, they'd be in your accounting system quicker. If they were digitized and available in your accounting system faster, your organization would have faster access to the documents, and you wouldn't need to spend nearly as much time tracking them down. The reason we focus on time spent on each part of the process is because through hundreds of customer interviews we've actually done with our clients, we've identified this as being one of the root causes and challenges for the AP process. And so last year, we partnered with the company Level Research, and they did an in-depth study on AP processes across multiple organizations of all different sizes. And what they found was that most large enterprises have some level of AP automation already, whereas small to medium-sized enterprises or companies with less than $100 million in revenue still have very manual workflow. Why might that be the case? Well, historically, these tools have been available for only large enterprises because there was more need for automation with those organizations processing sometimes high volumes of invoices in the hundreds of thousands. The lack of tools available for SMEs or small and medium-sized enterprises left them with limited options, often patching different tools together, combined with paper, filing cabinets, manual follow-ups. So you might have seen this already where you might have one tool for document management, another tool for capturing, and maybe even a different tool to help with approvals. So we've seen some companies trying to piece together different tools in order to automate their AP workflow. But in our experience, piecing together multiple different tools hasn't been that successful. In order to save your team time, it's best to have one solution to really automate AP from start to finish. So drawing a bit more into the results of the research, we can see here that the top AP challenges are that small and medium-sized enterprises with manual processes face the following challenges. As you can see, manual data entry and routing for approvals are I guess, lead the way here, as well as lost and missing invoices. In addition to this research, we actually did our own studies with over 200 AP teams to find where they were spending their time, and the data showed that data entry accounts for more than half of their time, and another fifth of their time was spent managing approvals. Manual AP processes are typically high cost and they inhibit growth. Organizations that have these manual processes tend to be inefficient and leak costs. They are dependent on current systems that are not scalable to higher invoice volumes or the needs of a growing organization. Based on this research and our own studies, we know that if we are able to reduce the time spent on your data entry and approvals, we would significantly improve the lives of everyone related to AP. Because we know that those of you who are accountants, you didn't go to school to be an accountant to do manual data entry all day. So that is one of our primary goals. And that also brings us to our first poll. So the poll we've got today is going to be, what is your top pain point in AP? So that poll has just been shared, and I believe you'll be able to select multiple if there are more than one. So the options are manual data entry, manual invoice approval process, paper invoices, lack of visibility into AP, or discrepancies where if you're processing things manually, it might not line up to what's in your accounting software. So we've got the poll open right now. We'll leave it open for another few seconds. And here are the results. So it looks like two of the options led the way by far. Those were manual data entry and paper invoices that were both selected for 100% of the respondents. Manual invoice approval process was also central to some of the challenges within AP. So that is great. You have come to the right place. We'll be focusing on really how we can help overcome some of those manual challenges that your organization faces each day within AP. So how many different ways could an AP professional actually solve these challenges? There are a few different categories of software that tackle the problems related to AP. So I mentioned some of those earlier. Those include document management, and if time is a concern, you may want to stay clear, as some of these solutions can take up to a year to implement. The second one, data entry. So this is really just capturing the data from your invoices, which leaves a lot of people lacking an workflow solution. So actually having a structured workflow for those invoices to go through. And then finally, AP automation, which focuses on just accounts payable, but is really the all-in-one tool for AP. So for today's presentation, we're just going to focus on AP automation. Possibly for some other parts of your organization, there may be some tools that you can implement as well to save some of that paper. But today we're going to focus on AP. So AP automation, what it does is we will eliminate repetitive tasks. So things like scanning, printing, emailing invoices, this can all be automated. Real-time financial data, you get to see your data in real time. That means if you need visibility of where an invoice is, that can be immediately looked up. And procure to pay. Manage your payments in the same system as your purchase orders. So we have a workflow which moves from purchase orders all the way through to invoices and payments. So this becomes the one solution for all three. So with AP automation, you get unlimited users. All your data is in one place, and that includes multiple entities, multiple companies, and being a software as a service cloud solution, you can easily access it from anywhere in the world. And now you have a complete AP system that frees you up to make real-time decisions and do what you actually need to do to focus on in your own role. And then cue Sage AP automation. So once a company does typically adopt something like AP automation or Sage AP automation, what we've seen within our organization is generally an 83% reduction in the data entry. So we've done surveys before and after in order to come up with these numbers, as well as 95% reduction in the time spent managing approvals. As well, some results that come a bit secondary to these is a significant reduction in the amount of vendor inquiries and internal inquiries related to the state of payments, as that's all going to be electronic. Everyone will have that visibility a lot earlier on. So now to refer back to the study that Level Research did last year, they found that automated teams had significant reduction in paper invoice volumes, as well as approvals of invoices and improved visibility of unpaid invoices. So we believe, as an AP automation provider, that accountants should be freed from monotonous tasks such as data entry. As I mentioned earlier, no one went to school to do data entry all day. So now we're going to jump into the software directly to really show you what it looks like. We'll be able to jump through each of our modules, and then at the end, as we mentioned, there'll be a time for questions and answers. All right, so I've just brought us into Sage AP Automation, the software itself. You'll notice it is web-based, so I'm just on a web browser here. On the left-hand side, you can see we've got three main modules. We've got purchase orders, we've got invoices, as well as payments. And each of these modules, they operate in a very similar way. So for example, here within invoices, invoices will flow from the left to right through these tabs at the top. They will move from create to in progress to approvals to export, then to archive in that order. And that works around the same for each module. So for example, if we jump down to payments, it's going to be a very similar workflow, but in blue color. So really it's designed to make it very easy and user-friendly for you and your team to actually pick up and learn how to use the system. In the center of each screen will be your workspace. So in this case, it's all the invoices here that we have that are in progress. And then on the left-hand side, we have filters at the top, so you can filter by anything you like, by date range, invoice number, etc. We can filter by the status of the invoice and also by the organization structure. So for those of you with multiple companies or multiple legal entities, you can manage multiple of them at once in here. So for example, if you have several companies and several departments within each company, you can segment access by user. So if you have one user who, let's say, just works here within Green Bean Co. within the marketing department, you can give them access to just view marketing. So when they log on, they won't actually see anything else, just what they have access to. So we can restrict that access on a user by user basis. Whereas from your point of view, for the AP team or for management, you can select all to view all the AP all on one screen, or you can drill down to a specific entity or department or location to just view the AP from there. As I mentioned, we do allow unlimited users, so you can have as many users as you like. It doesn't have to relate to who has access to your accounting software. So next, we'll jump through each of the modules briefly. We'll start with purchase orders. And I understand not everyone may have purchase orders as part of your workflow. So if not, this purchase order part will not apply to you. And for those of you who do have purchase orders as part of your workflow, purchase orders can operate in one of two ways within AP automation. We can create purchase orders within our system directly, and that is what I'll be showing today. Or if you already do create purchase orders within your accounting software, for example, within Sage directly, we are able to import POs directly from the accounting software with some of our integrations, so that can be an option as well. So I'll show you here what it looks like to create a brand new PO if you are using our system here for POs. So the purchase order creator, they can go in here and they can select what vendor it's related to. This will pull in your vendor list directly in from Sage. And they can also select things like delivery date and a description. And then after that, they can fill out the line items for that purchase order. So if they are going to be the ones to select the account code, they can enter it here. This will pull in your list of codes directly in from Sage. Or if they're not going to be the ones to code it, this can be left blank, and that can be done later at the approval stage if one of the approvers will be the one to code. So at this stage, the user can fill out the line items and then click Save or Submit for approval directly. If they do click Save, that will move that PO on to the In Progress tab. So we've got a big list here of all our open POs before they are submitted for approval. So let me find one of them to open here. If we click into it, we can see the system's actually created a visualization of that purchase order. So it'll assign the line items here, as well as a PO number, date, vendor address, and logo. And if we do need to add more line items, that can be done here. As well, we can split lines by percentages or equal parts if we need to make any other changes. Once that PO has been created, that user can click Submit for approval. And that will move those on to the next tab, to the approval stage. In here, that user can select all the invoices to approve and approve them at once if they'd like, or the PO approver can go into each one. They can review the details of that PO, and they can click Approve or Reject and leave a comment. And if they do click Reject, they're required to leave a comment of why it got rejected. Otherwise, they can click Approve to move it on to the next step or to the next approver. And I'll be able to show you how we set up those approval channels a little bit more later on to determine who approves which invoices. Otherwise, once those purchase orders are approved, they move into our Committed tab. So this is where all those open POs will live, awaiting invoices to match up against them. So we can have the total amount here, the amount that's been drawn down, and the amount that's remaining displayed. Or we can open them to view the details, just like this. And then finally, once those POs are closed, they move into our Close tab. So everything in here will be stored for a period of at least 7 years. So again, you'll have access to this, and you can run reports if you like by PDF or CSV, and I'll show you more about those reports again a little bit later on. So that was the process there to create a PO. Next, we'll move into the invoice module to show you how those invoices can come in, and if they are related to POs, how they can get matched up and coded. So we have a few different ways that invoices can come into the system. They can be scanned in, emailed in, or we can snap a photo. So the first method, by email, we can provide you with an email address to receive those invoices into. And you can provide that email directly to your vendors if you like. Or if you already have an email address set up, you can set that existing email to forward or to auto forward those invoices into our system. Those will come in automatically into the Create tab. So this first step here, they'll come into in progress. The first step here, the Create tab, this is primarily for those paper copy invoices or ones that get dropped off. Those can be scanned in all together. So whether it's 10 invoices or 100, it doesn't matter. Those can be scanned in all at once. Drag and drop the file into here and then click Upload. That will bring in each of those invoices together like this. And if they are each individual, we can just click Split to move them onto separate lines. And if we did run into some multi-page invoices, we can just drag and drop as needed. Then click Save and Create Invoices to get those ones uploaded. So no need to split those with a PDF splitter or to scan individually. That can all be managed within our system. Next, we have the In Progress tab. So no matter how those invoices came in, if they were scanned in, emailed in, or if you used our mobile app to snap a photo, they will all come into the In Progress tab here. And they'll be available for us by next business day with the data already captured. So we're going to help capture for you things like the vendor name, the invoice number, the PO number if there is one, the dates, due dates, subtotals, totals, and taxes from the invoice. As well, you can see an image of the invoice like this, and if there was a PO, that will show up side by side just like this. So at this stage, we'll capture that data for you, display the invoice and the PO. Next, all there is to do is the GL and line item coding, and I'll be able to show you how we can manage that in one of a couple different ways. So first, if there is a PO associated with that, we can just click the PO adoption button. That will pull up what was contained on that PO. So if there's multiple lines, we can just select the ones we'd like and then click adopt. That effectively will pull in the coding directly off of that purchase order and onto the line items of the invoice. And then we can just click save or submit for approval, and that invoice is done. Or if it is going to be coded to a if that invoice is not associated with a purchase order, there's going to be a couple ways to code that as well. So one will be, for example, if that invoice is associated with a particular vendor and the next month you receive another invoice from the same vendor, if that's going to be coded the same way, all you'll need to do is click Smart Code in the top right. That will populate how that invoice was coded last time. So it's going to be one click to code, then submit for approval, and that invoice is done. Or if it's going to be coded differently for any reason, you can go into any of these fields. For example, your account code field. This will pull in your list of GL accounts. So you can type in the correct code or any word from the name, let's say the word expense, to find your expense accounts, to select what you're looking for that way, and then save or submit for approval. We also do allow for the ability to make changes if you need to, for example, add additional line items, or even split a line by percentages or by equal parts. That can be managed here. And if you did need to attach any backup documentation, like a quote or a letter from a vendor or a contract, that can be uploaded, and that will live beneath the invoice under backup pages. All right, so that's the process of how we can get those invoices into the system, captured and coded. So earlier we mentioned that data entry is going to be a main challenge for a lot of organizations who operate AP manual. This is going to be one of the primary areas where we can save on that time by capturing all that data for you, and then either coding directly from the PO or using smart code to remember the coding. Next, we'll move on to the approvals tab. So once those invoices are submitted for approval, the approver would get a notification by email or on the mobile app that there's something to approve. So they can go in here and they can, for example, select all and batch approve or reject, or they can go into each one in more detail. They can review an image of the invoice, end of the PO if there is one, review the header codings, review the line item coding and details, and then just click approve or reject. It's that simple. And if they are going to click reject, they're required to leave a comment of why it got rejected. And next, I'll show you actually how we can set up what we call approval channels to determine who will approve which invoices. So we can set up as many approval channels as you like. I've got a whole list of them here. And approvals can be set up for each of the modules. So for purchase orders, invoices, and payments, we can have approval channels for each. I'll open one approval channel as an example. So in this case, this is going to be an approval channel. We've got a set of rules here in each box, and then below that, it'll go to a certain person or a certain set of people. So in this case, the first rule I have is for invoices between $0 and $5,000. I've also got it related to invoices relating to this department, as well as lists that are pulled in directly from your accounting software, such as your GL account list or your vendor list. That can be managed here. And then in this case, with this set of 4 rules, I can then choose who I actually want that to go to for approval. So if you want it to go just to one person, just like this, you can have it just go to Sally. Or if you'd like it to go to multiple people, we can have it go first to Sally and then to Tom in that order. Or if it's going to be needed to go to our CEO third, we could put her there. And what we also allow is what we call group approvals. That will be if we drag multiple people in a group together just like this. This will allow either one of them or any one of them to approve. So in this case, it'll be first Sally, then Tom, then either Jack or Jill could approve. So the approval channels are very flexible, and the goal of this is once it's set up, this will save your team from that tedious time of actually managing, sending out those invoices by email or by paper and making sure they get back, sometimes with a physical stamp of approval. And we can customize those notifications. So that means if you would like that user to, for example, receive an email for every approval that's needed, that can be set up. Or if there's someone who receives too many invoices to approve, that might be a case where they might prefer a daily summary email. So that will be one email each day with all the invoices that they'll need to approve. In that case, that is a daily summary, and they can get that automatically each day if they'd like. And that also acts as an automatic reminder. So in case there's any invoices they forgot about, that will remind them the next day automatically to save your team from having to remind those users individually. And then after that, once those invoices have been approved, they move on to what is called the export. This is simply just to sync back with your accounting software or with Sage. So all we'll need to do is click Actions in the top right, Export Data, and this will push this invoice data back into your accounting software. In the case of Sage, it will create a batch within AP for you. And if you do have a server-based accounting software, we will install our sync tool to communicate with your software directly. So that'll run automatically on a schedule. Next, once those invoices are sent back into your accounting software, they will stay here within the archive tab for at least 7 years for record keeping and compliance. So that means you'll have access to everything in here, so you can search and find what you're looking for. No need to file away in filing cabinets or electronically. It's all going to be stored automatically for you. So you can run searches and filters here on the left-hand side, maybe by a certain vendor or invoice date or description or really any data point you'd like. You can click into those invoices to view them, to view the image of the invoice, the PO and all the details. Or what you can also do is create what we call custom reports. So you can run a custom filter and then in the top right, you can run the report either as a CSV or a PDF. So I'll just run a PDF report here with everything selected. And I'll generate that report. And so if I open up this report, the first page will give me a summary of everything that I selected. In this case, looks like a selection of 28 invoices. So I can view the summary page and I can scroll down to view each one, or I can even just click the hyperlink to bring me down to that page like this. I'll be able to see an image of the invoice here, the header coding below, the header coding at the top, the line item coding below, and the approval history to show me who approved it and when. And below that, I'll have a copy of the purchase order. If there was one, that will show up right next to it. So all this data will be accessible for you. It's going to be completely searchable. This will make it easy if you do go ever through an audit process. You can easily run these reports for auditors or even give auditors read-only access to see the entire system. Other than that, that completes the process. So everything will be stored for you, archived electronically, data entry be handled, as well as the approval process. So this is the invoice module here from start to finish. Afterwards, you have the option of using us for payments if you'd like or not. So I'll take us through the payments workflow as well. If you were to use us for payments, payments will come directly into the first tab here, the Payments Create tab. You might realize this is a little bit familiar with the previous modules. It does follow the same workflow. So in this case, we can select what we'd like to pay. It will group those payments together by vendor. So you can have 2 invoices for one vendor. It'll group them into one payment. It will also give you your age payables list of what's 30, 60, 90, and over 90 days due. So we can select what we'd like to pay and then click Create. That will move those on to the In Progress tab. Everything in here will be defaulted automatically, but if we did need to make some changes, we can change what payment method it's being made. We can change what bank account it's coming from, and we can set that payment for auto release if we like. What that means is if we set that payment for auto release, it will be automatically released once it's been approved. And so those payment types that we offer payments by standard check. That's where we can actually print and send a check directly to your vendors through our system. Or electronic payments, that's where we can send out an EFT or ACH payment directly to your vendor's account. As well, we offer a virtual card option where we can send a unique email to your vendor with a credit card number. They'll run that through as a MasterCard payment. And the advantage is we do offer a cashback rebate on the virtual card payments as well. Next will be the Approvals tab. So once those payments are submitted for approval, you can run a separate payment workflow for approvals. So the approver, they can again select all and batch approve, or in each payment, they can review the details, review how the payment's being made and what invoices were on it, and then click approve or reject. And once it's been approved, it moves on to the Releases tab. This tab can be automated. Otherwise, we can select what we'd like to release and click Release. That will execute those payments and send them off directly to your vendors. So no need to send any files to your bank or to print and sign checks in-house. If you're using our payments module, that can all be released at the click of a button. And then finally, once those invoices the payments have been paid, they will move on to our Pay tab. And this is again where we complete that sync back with your accounting software. So we can just click Export in the top right to push that payment data back into Sage or your accounting software in order to fully complete your process. And then after that, we do have an archive tab, so everything will be stored again for at least 7 years if you do need to search up any previous payment data. So we've covered really from start to finish, purchase orders through to invoices and payments. I know it was really a high level overview, but we did go through each step. So if you do have some questions, I do encourage you to type them into the chat. Other than that, we will have a time for Q&A now. Or if you do need to get in contact for some more detailed questions, I will leave this slide up here as we go through the Q&A. For next steps, so this is Kelly's contact details here. as well as the phone number for Braincell, and they can get in touch with us or get you in touch with us if you would like a more personalized demonstration. Other than that, I think we'll open the floor to Q&A. So Kelly, I'll leave it to you if you'd like to go through some of the questions.
Excellent, Joey, thank you so much for that. So yes, just like Joey said, folks, this is my contact information here. You can get in touch with me and we can get you signed up for a free 30-day trial of Beanworks. And any other questions, like Joey said as well, if you want to do more of a focused one-on-one demonstration, we can definitely get that set up for you as well. We do have some questions though, Joey, I'm going to throw at you. The first one is, will the vendor receive a list of the payments made if a payment is made electronically in Sage AP Automation?
All right, great. Yeah, so great question there. That's, will the vendor get some sort of remittance if the vendor is sent, or sorry, if the payment's made within our system? So that's something that's very important for that vendor to get a copy of a remittance. So we do offer remittances for all of our payment types. So if the payment's made electronically, like an EFT or ACH, we'll be able to actually automatically send that vendor an emailed remittance. So they'll receive an email with a list of what payments were made on that electronic transfer. Same with a virtual credit card payment as well. And for a standard check, we'll include a remittance note within the check envelope. Or we can also optionally also send an email remittance if you're making a check payment through our system. So for each payment type, we'll make sure the vendor gets a remittance, either for checks in paper, in the envelope, or for all payment types electronically by email.
Got it. Okay, that's great. Another question here we have, how many users can access the system at one time?
Great. So I mentioned earlier that we do allow unlimited users, but can all those users access the system at once? That answer is yes. So we will provide each of those users their own login and access so that if they make changes, it's tracked that the changes are being made by that user. So if you have 5 users or you have 500 users, it doesn't matter. All those users can have access and they can all use the system at once. It won't slow the system down because it is web-based. It's not reliant on being on an internal server or anything like that. So all those users can have access at no additional cost. As well, they can all use the system at once too.
Yeah, that's really good to know, especially with so many people working remotely. I know that everybody at Braincell is working remotely right now, so having it be web-based is a huge plus. Okay, so we have another question here. This might be the last one. So folks, if you have any other questions, please feel free to throw them into the question box. But finally, we have, can I still make payments from Sage if I'm using the AP Automation Payments module?
Yes, so that's a great question as well. I mentioned our payments module, it's optional, but we do have some clients who choose to make some payments directly from their accounting software, so maybe directly from Sage, and then others from our system. And we do have a two-way sync on payments, which does allow for that. So that means, for example, if you are making a payment, maybe you have someone who comes into your office and they need a check directly that day, hand delivered to them. So you can still run that payment through Sage and give them a check from your own check stock. So in that case, that payment will be recorded in Sage. And with our two-way sync on payments, that will tell AP Automation here it's been paid from Sage. So it'll remove it from our payments module, so it won't prompt you to pay that twice. So yes, you can use us for payments, but you don't have to use us for all your payments. If you'd like to make some payments directly from Sage, that two-way sync will ensure that the system will be updated if that payment is made outside of here.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's great. It looks like that was maybe it. So folks, once again, my contact information is here. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you think of any other questions, you want to get in touch about taking advantage of that free trial, or if you want to have us set up a one-on-one demo for you. We are right at 2:45 Eastern time. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. Please, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we will once again be sending a recording of this webinar to everybody in short order. So once again, thank you all. Thank you, Joey, very much. Great job, and everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.